My name is Emily, 22 years old, and this is something I've never shared with anyone. Not my friends, not my therapist, not even those I trust most. Saying it out loud feels like shattering everything. I'm not addicted to alcohol or drugs, but to something else, a thing I can't go a single night without. My vibrator. It began when I was 18. Simple and somewhat innocent. I was young, curious, and carrying a quiet loneliness I couldn't name. That loneliness was like a shadow, wrapping around me every night when the house fell dark and no one noticed if I cried myself to sleep. One day, I ordered a toy online, a small, pink thing that looked harmless, fitting neatly in my hand. I never imagined it would become the one thing that made me feel alive. The first night I used it, I was nervous. My hands trembled as I locked my door, turned off the lights, and slipped under the covers. I didn't know what to expect, only that I craved something to break through the numbness. And it did. At first, it was once a week, on restless nights when sleep wouldn't come. But slowly, it became every night, part of my routine, like brushing my teeth or drinking water before bed. My body couldn't relax without that sweet, pulsing hum. It stopped being a choice and became a need. I built a private world around it. Dim lights, soft music, phone on silent, just me in a room that belonged to no one else. I knew exactly how to touch, how to breathe. Those moments made everything else fade away. But afterward, guilt and loneliness would flood in. I kept this secret to myself, until my dad moved in. My dad, James, was always distant, not cold, but like a closed door I never knew how to approach. After my parents' divorce, Mom left for good, and I started living with him when I turned 19. I thought it would be awkward, having him around all the time, sitting on the couch like nothing had changed. But it wasn't what I expected. Dad wasn't the man I remembered. He seemed taller, broader, with a salt and pepper beard and tight-fitting shirts that hugged his chest and arms. He moved with a confidence I hadn't noticed before, calm, deliberate, like he had nothing to prove. One day, I saw him coming out of the shower, a towel around his waist, water dripping from his hair. I was passing through the hallway and froze. A single drop of water slid down his chest, tracing his abs before disappearing under the towel. I stood there, staring, forgetting to breathe. He looked up and smiled. A harmless smile, but something shifted inside me. I started noticing small things, his cedarwood scent, the way his voice deepened when he said my name, or how his eyes lingered when I wore shorts around the house. I began dressing differently, tighter tank tops, shorter shorts. I told myself it was because of the heat. But deep down, I liked the way he looked at me. Every night, I returned to my private world. But now, my fantasies weren't about strangers. They were about him. One night, after a bath, I passed his room and heard a sound, low, guttural, like a moan. I knew I shouldn't, but I stepped closer, peering through the slightly open door. There he was, shirtless, eyes closed, hands moving slowly. I should have walked away, but I couldn't. That night, the image of him stayed with me. I lay in bed, heart racing, trying to make sense of my feelings. I knew it was wrong, but my body didn't react that way. In the days that followed, I tried to act normal, keeping my distance, but Dad changed too. He left his door open, walked around casually, sometimes shirtless, sometimes in low-slung shorts. His eyes lingered on me, and mine on him. One evening, I wore an oversized t-shirt, barely covering anything, and sat next to him on the couch. We were watching some show, but I wasn't paying attention. Our arms brushed, our legs touched. The silence between us felt louder than the TV. Then he turned and said, "Emily, you've grown into such a beautiful woman." His voice was careful, weighted. I didn't know what to say. We looked at each other, the space between us shrinking. I don't know who moved first, but we kissed, a soft, hesitant kiss, like we were both afraid. But neither of us pulled away. That night, things went further. Touches lingered, boundaries blurred. I knew it was wrong. But in that moment, it felt right, like something that had been building beneath the surface. The next morning, I woke up and, for a second, forgot everything. Then it hit me, the kiss. His hands, his breath. I felt panicked, ashamed, confused. I stayed in my room longer than usual. hearing him move around the house like it was a normal day. When I finally came out, he asked if I wanted breakfast. As if nothing had happened. We ate in silence, the air heavy with our unspoken secret. The days after were a struggle. On the outside, everything seemed fine, but inside, I was unraveling. I looked in the mirror and asked, "What are you doing? Why aren't you running?" But I wasn't sure I wanted to run. Something had changed in me. I noticed him more, his voice, his clothes, the way he moved. I knew it was wrong. But the line had been crossed. Some nights, I heard his footsteps outside my door. Other nights, he'd be in the living room, glancing at me as I passed. We circled each other, carrying a secret too big to voice. Then, one night, it happened again. No words, no plan, just a touch, a look, and we crossed that line again. Afterward, he held me, like he didn't want me to feel like a mistake. But I still felt hollow. We never talked about it. It became something we silently carried. We'd eat dinner like a normal family. But sometimes, in the quiet nights, we'd end up too close. It wasn't love, not the kind between a father and daughter. But it wasn't just lust either. It was guilt, longing, and pain wrapped together. One evening, I saw him sitting on his bed, staring at the floor, lost in thought. I realized he was hurting too. What we had wasn't beautiful or healthy. It was something we fell into when the world stopped making sense. The next morning, I packed a bag and told him I was staying with a friend for a few days. He didn't ask why, just nodded. I left, and it's been months since we've spoken. I think about him every day. Not with a smile, but with questions. How did we get here? Was it loneliness? The absence of mom? Or something deeper we're too afraid to face? I don't have answers, and I don't expect forgiveness. Not even from myself. If you're carrying a heavy secret, you're not alone. Don't miss out. Subscribe now to watch the next video and discover more exciting content waiting for you.